Hello, BookTube. It's a beautiful, dry Monday here. A wonderful, lovely start to the week. Yesterday was swampishly humid, and there was that trembling feeling in the air that maybe a storm would come through, and then eventually a storm did come through. Despite all the red letter warnings that we had in all of the news fronts, it wasn't much of a storm. It was pretty feisty. It was drenching rain, but it was the useless kind of rain because it was over in 3 minutes. So no chance for the rain to do anything or go anywhere. That's why there were flash flood warnings. And there was a little bit of thunder, a little bit of lightning, but the main thing that storm did was to wash out the heat and humidity. That is going to be rebuilding during the course of the week, but it's gone today. So today was absolutely lovely. At 5 o'clock, I was waiting. Of course, I was waiting. I was reading in bed, and I was waiting for my little baby being to wake up. I spend most of my life waiting for people I love to wake up, and I was enjoying the reading, so it didn't really matter. This is one of the many miracles of a little e-reader is that there's no apparatus. The book I was reading this morning is big. If it had been a physical book, it would have disturbed Frida. As it is, it was as easy as could be. But while that was happening, while the sky was brightening and you could just smell it in the air, that the air was drier and cleaner, that all of that humid pre-storm glop had been washed out, I was thinking, maybe go to the Brattle bookshop? Which would be an absolute travesty since I was just there a few days ago and got a gigantic pile of books. But I was thinking about that, and then I thought, no, not only would that be excessive, but also there's a chance that you'll get a pile of books for free in the mail. The books will come to you. How many book lovers can say that? And that's exactly what happened. A pile of books came to me. So we're going to go through them and see what we can find here. The first one is small and light, so I'm assuming it's a mass market paperback. Oh, no. No. This will do just fine. This is one of those little Princeton guides that repurpose bits and pieces of ancient writing from Greece and Rome to give modern-day life advice. What is the name of the series? I always forget the name of the series. Ancient Wisdom for Modern Readers. And it's a long series now. There are a lot of books in it. And it's also genuinely noteworthy. At first, maybe, the idea is kind of fun, but I don't know that I would have considered it noteworthy. But the ensuing volumes have featured a lot of original translations, including new translations of stuff that has no wide-scale translation available. So what have we got here? Okay, this volume is called How to Make a Home, an Ancient Guide to Style and Comfort. And we're told it's by Vitruvius and Guess. So Vitruvius is a famous ancient writer on architecture. So these are selected, translated, and introduced by Martin Fitzpatrick Nichols. So another perfect case in point of what I'm talking about. These are not repurposed translations by someone else. And these are also they're bilingual. They've got the Latin or the Greek on the facing pages. So what have we got here? This comes out in mid-August. That's good. I'm building out my August bookshelf. Had a little bit of a debacle earlier today where I could not for the life of me find not an older book, which happens all the time, unless it's on my Kindle, which makes it easy to do. I can simply ask the Kindle to find it for me. I was having trouble finding an older book. I was actually having trouble finding a new book, which occupy only 5 shelves in this room, and yet it was defying me. So that made me realize that the new book shelves needed to be straightened and reorganized, and I needed to bring order to that, which involves actually moving a computer over there and looking up all the books that don't have metadata on them. But anyway, let's see here. So, and in the process, I built out my August and September shelves, but I'd like the August shelf to be much healthier than it is. So what have we got here? The idea that our homes can communicate professional as well as personal identities may seem as new as work-from-home revolutions. But it was second nature to the ancient Romans, for whom the home was in many ways the center of public and private life. Roman authors saw infinite practical and symbolic value in their houses, and they have much to say about them. This book presents some of the best Roman writings on houses, from buying and selling to designing and decorating. Edited and elegantly translated by Marden Fitzpatrick Nichols, this volume gathers selections by Cicero, Vitruvius, Seneca, and others, with the original Latin or Greek on facing pages. Oh, did Nichols translate the Greek as well? These writings reveal the pleasures and pitfalls of the Roman practice of making one's home a cornerstone of self-expression. When the ideal home enshrined the Roman virtues and could make a career, lavish building projects could lead to financial ruin and moral condemnation. These authors memorably describe such travails as deceptive staging, decorators run amok, know-it-all owners, unsupervised contractors, and buyer's remorse. Along the way, they also explain why simplicity is bliss, privacy is for nobodies, a neglected house is a sign of a neglected soul, and much more. I wonder how much there'll be in here about personal libraries, about having books in your home. That's interesting. Privacy is for nobodies, though, is a little bit odd, because I understand it, and I bet I know exactly where that comes from. But when you had a townhouse, when you had not your country place, but a place in the city, you had it was set up for public reception. But in every case that I know of, the owner also had a private study or even a private suite of rooms where some guests would go, and which was very much private. So I wonder, let's see who's in here. So Vitruvius gets the name on the cover instead of Cicero. That's interesting. I wonder if that's because we get a lot more of him than we do of anybody else. Oh, it starts off with Ovid. Then Vitruvius and Strabo. Valerius Paterculus, fantastic. Vitruvius again, Cicero again, Seneca again, Juvenal again, Cicero again. Oh, Cicero should have been on the cover of this thing. Cicero yet again, Vitruvius yet again, then Vitruvius again. Bibaculus, good lord. There's a bit from Plautus, a little bit from Seneca, there's something from Cornelius Nepos. Oh my. Oh my. And then finally, the little piece that Pliny the Younger did on the perfect villa, and he ought to know because he had a bunch of them. I'm very curious about the Cornelius Nepos, though. Here, pardon me just a minute. You knew I was like this when you married me. Where is this? What are we getting? So do you introduce the characters first? No, you don't. No, you don't. You just move on. Or no, yes you do. Cornelius Nepos. Okay. Oh, fantastic. Well, these selections aren't long in here. And this is how to make your house a home, what to do with it, the travails of it. It'd be inherently interesting for me. I do prize hospitality. You wouldn't think it, since I seldom have guests, but I do. I prize it very much. I make my personal space, above all, responsive and comforting to me. I don't believe in keeping up appearances when you're behind doors here, when you're in private. But I like the space to be welcoming to others. I've been enormously gratified in the last few years with people that I met through BookTube that have come over here in person, that they report uniformly that it is a welcoming space. And that's good. That's just what it should be. And the more welcoming, the better. But anyway, that is How to Make a Home. That comes out in mid-August. And it is the only envelope here. All the rest of these things are boxes. So it's possible that these are all finished copies. And all for August. If that's true, that would be a huge way towards putting life into my August books. Just in this one Monday mail haul. So let's see. Of course, the problem with boxes is that I can't cut them open, so that they take a little bit of wrestling, but that's all right. So what is this first one here? We'll get the paperwork out of the way. Oh, fantastic. All right, well, the paperwork is just an invoice. Yes? Yeah, it's just an invoice. So it doesn't tell me when this book comes out. I think this thing is out already. But maybe it has a sheet in it. That would be great. No, it doesn't. Okay. So this is by Joanne Rayano. I think we saw this already on this channel, but now I have the finished copy. This is Charles Evans Hughes and the Dawning of Modern America. Always nice to see a John Singer Sargent portrait on the cover of any book. So we don't have a sheet for this. We'll just read it. In the first full-life biographical study of Charles Evans Hughes in over 70 years, the author provides a fresh assessment of Hughes's distinguished, multifaceted public service during the first half of the 20th century. His exceptional career includes the role of Governor of New York, Associate Justice and Presidential Candidate, Secretary of State, and Chief Justice of the Supreme Court from 1930 to 1941. A household name in his own time, Hughes challenged bossism in New York politics, championed post-World War I internationalism, and brokered the world's first arms limitation agreement. On the Supreme Court, tread carefully here, okay, on the Supreme Court, he was instrumental in modernizing legal doctrines concerning the Interstate Commerce Clause, substantive due process, and civil liberties. The author unpacks the seemingly paradoxical nature of Hughes's political and legal careers, arguing that he was neither radical nor reactionary, but a structural reformer and a practical idealist who significantly impacted the nation's transition into the 20th century. Fantastic. Fantastic. That's pretty good. Who is Joanne Rayano when she's at home? Professor Emerita of History at LaGuardia Community College, CUNY. With a lot of books to her credit. A lot of publications to her credit. Fantastic. Well, here's hoping that she catches Hughes's personality, but the real trick for a Charles Evans Hughes biography in 2025 is going to arise from the fact that the country is rabidly politically split. Just rabidly so. So you have normal people, you have 100 million normal people, and you have 200 million members of a religious cult. That has never been true in the United States history before. And that the 200 million members of that religious cult, as I've mentioned many times on this channel before, want to kill their opponents. There is no political diversity. There is no, room for dissent or multiplicity of voices or anything like that. They just want their opponents dead. And they wouldn't have known what to make of Charles Evans Hughes, who was in what once upon a time was a useful term. It isn't anymore. But once upon a time, there was a useful term of calling someone a compassionate conservative. I know that term was coined by a cynical figure much later than Hughes, but still, it was the case. Once upon a time, as I always say, young people, especially people born in the 21st century, came of age when Donald Trump came down his escalator in Trump Tower. I try to tell this to people, young people, and they just don't believe it. They fundamentally can't, and I don't blame them, because it's absolutely not true anymore. But once upon a time, there were two distinct and equally viable political visions in this country. The uppercase D Democratic vision and the uppercase R Republican vision. And you could be a Republican without being a monster. That is not true anymore. That is not possible anymore. And as I've talked with some of the aforementioned guests here at Hyde Cottage, that puts people who are actually just normal conservatives, from 1950s style conservatives, it puts them in a horrible position. Just horrible. You don't want to abandon what you consider to be the well-considered political stances of a lifetime, but you can't possibly ally yourself with the people who claim that mantle. You can't possibly do it. So what do you do? I wish I had an answer for that. The only answer I have when people come over, sit in the big easy chair, and ask that plaintive question is just to fill them full of wine and calzones. There's nothing I can do. There is no answer to that question. All I can do is make them plump and drunk. Pour them into the David Murphy Memorial Cot and, in the morning, hope the subject doesn't come up. Anyway, very nice to have this. Of course, I am was once upon a time a Supreme Court junkie, and to see this when there hasn't been a book on Hughes, and especially in his capacity at the Supreme Court, in way too long, is great. That's fantastic. So I don't remember the details on it though, so I don't know whether or not it fills out our August shelf. So let's just move on to the next one here. You can see my my baby Bean in the background there. She was an absolute angel. I thought, okay, it's not boiling hot, and it's also not chilly, and it's been plenty long enough, so it's time to give her a bath. And she was an absolute angel. I swear, she spoils me in so many ways. First of all, she understands spoken English, which is really nice. So I can walk into a room and just say, hey, do you want to do this, or do you want to do that? And I don't need to rephrase it in dog language. I don't need to do anything like that. She understands everything that is going on as quickly and as well as I do. I have been told by many miniature schnauzer people that is largely true of the females. I've been told over and over again that the males are doofuses. But that the females are preternaturally smart, and Frida is. But also, I've also been spoiled just in behavior. I mean, there's never any tension on the leash when we're out walking. It's just a loose loop. She wants to walk about 18 inches in front of my right foot, with frequent looks over her shoulder. She doesn't want to go any further than that, and she doesn't want to come any closer than that. She doesn't want anybody to maybe think that she likes me instead. And also, when it comes to giving her a bath, it's the easiest thing in the world. 10 minutes and it's done. It's going to make her feel a lot better, too, I think. We should do that every week when the weather is amenable. But anyway, let's look at the next book, which is from Cambridge University Press and doesn't even have an invoice. This one's just coming to me naked. And again, I think this is something that we've seen on this channel, but now I have a finished copy. And I'm pretty sure it's an August release, or maybe July. I'll have to check and see. I actually don't know how this is helping my August shelves. This is David Hempton, and this is his book, Christianity at the Crossroads, The Global Church from the Print Revolution to the Digital Era. So this is from Gutenberg to Gmail, that period, when Christianity was spreading throughout the world, and the Christian preachers and moneymakers and just ordinary rank-and-file devotees and exegetes were using whatever technology would allow them to go and make disciples of all nations. So we can just read the dust jacket here. I don't think we've ever done that. I think I just showed you the cover. Combining expansive storytelling with striking analysis of, quote, networks, nodes, and nuclei, the author's new book explains major developments in global Christianity between two communication revolutions, print and the internet. His novel approach, replete with vivid metaphor, we read of wildflower gardens and fungi, of exploding fireworks sending sparks of possibilities in all directions, and of forests with vast interconnected root systems hidden below our vision, allows him to look beyond institutional hierarchies, traverse national and denominational boundaries, and think more deeply about the underlying conditions promoting or resisting adaptation and change. That's two mentions of the author's writing ability in an academic press study of the growth of Christianity. That's mighty dangerous. Most people in this position, I'm assuming the author is an academic. We'll read all about him. But I'm assuming he's an academic, and most academics don't have the storytelling ability of a boiled piece of asparagus. So, well, maybe this is different. Maybe they're selling it because it's true. It also enables him to explore the crossroads or junction boxes where individuals and ideas encounter different traditions and from which something fresh and dynamic emerged. Okay, so who is the author when he says, oh my God, ordinarily you turn to, well, let's see, you take an academic press book. This is the University Press of Kansas. You take an academic press book, you turn to the back and you get the author bio, right? A little paragraph like that. Here's Cambridge University Press. I turn to the back to find out about David Hempton. The whole thing is good Lord. The University Distinguished Service Professor and Alonzo L. McDonald Family Professor of Evangelical Theological Studies at the Divinity School, Harvard University, where he also served as dean from 2012 to 2023. An internationally acclaimed religious historian, he is the author of numerous books focused on the early modern and modern periods several of them are award winners. And then it lists all of those books. Good Lord. And then all of his honorary degrees. Just fills out the whole thing. Boy, okay. Well, if I didn't think Jack Hansen was as busy as a one-armed man in a you-know-what kicking contest, I would send this to him, but he would never get to it. He might like to read it, but he would never get a chance to review it for me. Okay, well, I'm kind of curious. All that mention of his writing ability, I'm kind of curious. It's not fair, of course, because it's just a tiny dip. But let's take a tiny dip anyway. Let's read the beginning of his introduction. This book emerged from an invitation to deliver the 2021 Gifford Lectures, which were endowed more than a century ago to promote and diffuse the study of natural theology in the widest possible sense of the term. That was an intimidating task for me as a mere social historian of Christianity, who has often worked at the interstitial margins of religious traditions, so often conceptualized within national, denominational, institutional, and hierarchical categories on the one hand, and established spatial and conceptual boundaries on the other. Okay, let's see about, how about chapter 1? The initial idea for this book came from two unrelated events. The first was a conversation with the late distinguished sociologist of religion David Martin, who offered the suggestion that a potentially creative way of looking at Christian transmission over the past 500 years is to focus on nodal points of religious and cultural exchange when pre-existing religious traditions intersected with those with one another and something new, dynamic, and energetic emerged from the encounter. The second idea came from an invitation to deliver a plenary address at the Conference of British Scandinavian Church Historians on the theme of international religious networks held at the University of Lund in Sweden in 2005. Okay, well, maybe he works up to his stellar storytelling ability. Certainly hope that he does. Let's move on to the next one here. Again, I am just having to destroy these packages because they're just not. They're not in manila envelopes. So I still don't know. I don't know about the dates for any of these first three. So let's. Oh my. Okay, this is also from Princeton. This comes out in late August. Great. So this is an August book, but this is a galley copy. Is it not? No, it's not. Okay. Is this going to be a paperback original from Princeton University Press? That's not normal. Okay. Great. All right. Well, this is edited by Martha Patterson with an assist by Henry Louis Gates. And this is a gigantic work of history. The New Negro, A History in Documents, 1887 to 1937. And I don't know if we're going to be able to make it out. Let's have Charles Evans Hughes help out here. This is a bigger book. It's a bigger paperback. This book brings together a wealth of readings on the metaphor of the New Negro, charting how generations of thinkers debated its meaning and seized on its potency to stake out an astonishingly broad and sometimes contradictory range of ideological positions. 100 years ago, this was a huge, what constituted the New Negro, the so-called New Negro, was a huge subject. I'm assuming I know one person at least who will be featured heavily in this book. It features dozens of newly unearthed pieces by major figures such as W.E.B. Du Bois, Charles Johnson, and Drusilla Houston, as well as writings from Cuba, the U.S. Virgin Islands, Dominica, France, Sierra Leone, South Africa, colonial Zimbabwe, and the United States, demonstrating how this evocative and supremely protean concept predates its popularization in Alan Locke. There we go, in Alan Locke's 1925 anthology of the same name. I'm trying to remember, there was a great, just a few years ago, there was a great biography of Alan Locke, the kind of biography he really has deserved for a century. But I think, wasn't there also a reprint of his book, The New Negro, that came out right about the same time, probably due to the success of that book? Shameful that I'm drawing a blank on that. It might even be in a Penguin Classic. This book takes readers from its beginnings as a response to Henry Grady's famous The New South address in 1886 through the Harlem Renaissance and the New Deal. Fantastic. Incredible. Okay, well, that's amazing. So this does fill out the August shelf, and I guess this is what it's going to be. Just this is an academic press, so they don't ever print the prices on the book. But this has the ISBN code right on it, which galley copies don't tend to have. So I'm thinking this is going to come out. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. This comes out as a $40 paperback. This is going to be a $40 paperback in late August. Great. Fantastic. Boy, oh boy. There'll be a lot of stuff in here that I haven't read. Even though I did a lot of it. I did a lot of ancillary reading for that Alan Locke biography. And then we have the final book. The final box here, which is, oh my, this is hammered down tight. Wow, this isn't even going to settle for brute force. Can I even open this? Last week, or no, it was the week before last, I actually got a package in the mail that I had to discard. I tried. I used my hands, I used scissors, and then I used a big knife in the kitchen. I simply could not get the package open. It was that reinforced. I simply could not get it open, so I threw out the package. I just threw the box in the garbage. And, when I get some plaintive message from a publicist where maybe I just don't recognize what they're talking about, well, then I'll know. I'll know that's what it was. I very seldom have that happen, where I had to just throw the package away. The worst equivalent of that is one time years ago, someone overpacked a book so much, to such a comical degree, that I was able to get the package open, but I completely destroyed the book in the process. Not 2 pages next to each other. I completely destroyed the book in order to get it open. And I wrote to that publicist and gave them an earful. But anyway, I did get this thing open. So what? Oh my! Oh goodness gracious! Oh, this is a brick in the hand. Okay, so this doesn't help with August. This doesn't come out until the autumn, mid-October. Okay, great. This is by Joe Jackson, and it is called "Splendid Liberators: Heroism, Betrayal, Resistance, and the Birth of the American Empire." Big, thick thing. Does this even tell me how long this is? Do you tell me how long this is? No, you don't. You're supposed to print that here, but you don't do that. Almost 800 pages. Okay, let's see. So this is by a recent biographer of Black Elk, a book that I actually wrote about. I'm pretty sure that I did. I'm not sure that I 100% liked it. But this is a new book on the Spanish-American War. I just found the last full dress history of this at the Brattle just a little while ago, so it gets bumped up. Before I read this, I'll read that. In the wake of the Spanish-American War, the United States freed Cuba, Puerto Rico, and the Philippines from Spanish control, and in turn became an empire. With this book, Jackson draws on extensive research and interviews in Cuba and the Philippines to explore how that happened and its repercussions. How, pray tell, did you do that? With a Ouija board? Who did you interview about how the American Empire and the American overseeing of the Philippines happened? You wouldn't have to go to Cuba or the Philippines to conduct those interviews. You would have to go to hell. So I guess what you mean here explores how your grandfather says that it happened? While he sat on his porch because he wasn't anywhere near the fighting. Rejecting the triumphalist narrative that lionizes Teddy Roosevelt's San Juan Hill charge and subsequent events as a blow for freedom, he views the war through Cuban, Filipino, and U.S. perspectives to offer a biting post-colonial corrective to conventional understandings. Okay, that's a straw man. All of that is. Theodore Roosevelt, first of all, it's not Teddy. He used to complain to friends when some guest at the White House would show up, when the president used to shake hands with people, wasn't afraid of the public, didn't have huge barriers in place to stop them from being assassinated because they weren't Nazis and they weren't widely hated. But when some yokel from the provinces would come into a reception line, shake his hand and say, "How you doing, Teddy?" he would smile, but he would complain to his friends, Henry Cabot Lodge, afterwards and say, "The nerve. You don't get to call me by my nickname." Especially since even his closest friends usually didn't. But that's just a mistake. The straw man is the triumphalist narrative that lionizes the San Juan Hill charge and subsequent events as blows for freedom. That is absolutely not true. Theodore Roosevelt was being gently, and behind his back, obviously, mocked for the whole San Juan Hill business at the time that it happened. And the U.S. activities in the Philippines especially, those activities lionized, if you want to talk about lionized, most famously by The White Man's Burden, by Rudyard Kipling, which people forget was not about British imperialism. Obviously, since it takes a swipe at having the tawdry rule of kings. I know it was about that. It was about the U.S. extending its control to the Philippines. But that is the. If anybody read that poem anymore or was allowed to like it, that would be the ultimate lionization of that effort. But that stood out. There was a huge chorus of very intelligent, very studied disapproval of what was going on, of what the United States was doing in Cuba and the Philippines. And no one, aside from, moronic Bill O'Reilly type fake historians, no one but them was saying, this is great, this is tinny, this is brilliant. No, not at all. Even Kipling's poem, which you're not allowed to read, is sad and informed rather than triumphalist. So that doesn't bode well. But keep in mind, that's not the book. That's just the pub sheet. To offer biting post-colonial corrective to conventional understandings. Okay. All right. Well, we'll see what you have to say. That you call it a conventional understanding, I'm going to want you to point that out to me in something that isn't the 1950s equivalent of Bill O'Reilly. And I don't think you can do it. Historians, genuine literary, serious historians, have been incredibly critical of this whole period since it started. Literally since it started. You could fill a book this size with polemics and jeremiads against the United States' actions in the Philippines. But anyway, let's go on and give the book a little bit more say. A work of revisionist but epic popular history. That sounds good. This book tells the story of the war through its leading characters, offering surprising accounts of such celebrated figures as Teddy Roosevelt, there it is again, William McKinley, sure you don't want to call him Bill? William James, Clara Barton, Cuban revolutionary Jose Marti, and the first Philippines president, Emilio Aguinaldo. Jackson recovers the fascinating and largely forgotten stories of the legendary African-American soldier David Fagan, who defected to fight for the Filipino rebels, and the swaggering Colonel Fred Funston, who was sent to hunt him down. He writes of a soldier who was buried alive, race riots in the barracks, and a war hero silenced by the president for threatening to hang senators. The Spanish-American War would draw them all into a swirling vortex and change them forever. Boy, oh boy. All right, well, whoever wrote this pub sheet has crawled back into my good graces. That's pretty good stuff. But all I want to do is point out that there was an incredibly robust commentariat at the time. I know that to all of you, a century ago seems like a 1,000 years ago, but it's not true. There were all kinds of magazines that wrote long, in-depth pieces. I see these issues for sale for $1 a piece at the Brattle Bookshop. Most of them destined for the trash heap. Most of the prose that's in those issues will never be reprinted, never categorized or cataloged or digitized. And when there was a war going on, they commented on it all the time, and most of that commentary was not favorable. A stunning corrective, how's that word corrective again? Okay. To prevailing accounts, name me a prevailing account of the Spanish-American War. That's ridiculous. Name me one. There isn't one. 99.9% of Americans. Ask an American on the street, do you even know what the Spanish-American War is? Do you even know that it ever happened? They don't. It's not taught in schools. There's no prevailing account. This book is the first work of narrative nonfiction to look at the Spanish-American War through American, Cuban, and Filipino eyes, and to fully recount the major conflict that ended the Spanish Empire and established the American one. I am definitely on board. I don't know about the rest of you. Some of you will look at 800-page history of America's attempt at expansionism, and say, "Ooh, no." Some of you will say that, definitely, because this is. I mean, I'm realistic here. A lot of you, most of you, I would say, have to carefully ration your reading time. You've got all the commitments in the world. You've got to get your steps in. You've got children, even though I advised you not to. You've got a spouse, even though I advised you not to. You've got jobs, hygiene, classes, all sorts of things. So this is a huge undertaking for you. I will report back. This sounds like it could be really, really good. Okay, so there's no... Oh, wait, we do have a bit about the author. He's the author of numerous books, including The Thief at the End of the World, Atlantic Fever, Black Elk, The Life of an American Visionary, won a whole bunch of awards and came out in 2016. I could swear that I wrote about Black Elk. I'll have to see if I can find it or if David Murphy can. I could swear that I did. This thing looks like a huge amount of work. Great. Fantastic. All right, well, this was a terrific mail haul. Just terrific. So let's go over it again without blocking the bean's face. We have Splendid Liberators. Big new narrative history of the Spanish-American War. Really nice timing that I found that other volume, that earlier volume. That's great. I'll be able to... That is what I don't know about the pub sheet author, but I'm assuming that it's books like that earlier history at which Jackson is taking aim here. Because if you're going to be, gently revisionist, you've got to be revisionist against something. So I'm very glad to have that thing. Then we have this big, huge anthology about the new Negro. So not just Alan Locke, but a whole bunch of double column writings about the issue of race in the years leading up to and then straight through the Harlem Renaissance. Oh. Then we have a new biography of Charles Evans Hughes. Probably I'm going to end up thinking this isn't long enough, but maybe it'll be stultifyingly dull, in which case, not. And then David Hempton's Christianity at the Crossroads, How You Spread the Word with a capital W. And finally, How to Make a Home. Vitruvius would have been concerned with literally how you make it. How do you lay out the grounds and pour the foundation and whatnot. But a couple of these other people, especially that piece the piece ends with Pliny the Younger. Pliny the Younger wrote basically a little dissertation. He actually wrote a longer dissertation that we don't have, but he wrote a little dissertation on what makes a perfectly comfortable and inviting home. And some of those principles have not changed in 2,000 years, probably in 10,000 years. And I don't do it consciously, but I try to adhere to those principles here at Hyde Cottage. And I watch carefully. When I have a guest over, I watch for the moment when they suddenly feel it. When they suddenly know they're not a guest anymore, that they're at home. This place is home. Now, having an adorable and friendly dog helps a lot. And before this one, I had 2 other adorable and friendly dogs. There was a bit of a challenge before my girls, because the dogs before them were all beagles, who cared very much what I thought, what I was feeling, what I felt like doing, whether or not I was in a playful mood. They cared very much about that. And they did not care at all about anyone else. At all. Not even to the point of curiosity. So it was a little bit harder to make a guest feel welcome when the whole end of the couch was just 6 triangular heads all looking at them on the easy chair, kind of sort of visibly wishing they were gone. That's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to overcome that. But I was helped by my girls, who were very outgoing, very friendly, and I'm helped by my little schnauzer as well. But anyway, I don't know the dates for a lot of these things. So once again, I have to haul out the computer to see how many of these are going on the August shelf. But what a mail haul. Okay. So Steve is pleased. I'm sorry for the length of this. I will go for now, but I will be back. Thank you, BookTube.